Dr. Aidan Foster's fingers danced across his tablet as the research shuttle broke through Lunaris's shimmering atmosphere. The cabin filled with an ethereal blue-green light as the twin suns filtered through clouds unlike any on Earth. After 8 years of academic research, 2 years of mission preparation, and 11 months of cryosleep, he was finally here, humanity's furthest outpost of scientific discovery. Atmospheric composition stable. Oxygen levels at 26%, nitrogen 71%, Aidan dictated into his recorder. His green eyes, still adjusting to the natural light after so long in artificial environments, widened at the readings. Trace elements include something unusual, marking for further analysis. The small shuttle settled onto a clearing amidst what appeared to be vegetation, towering structures with translucent, fiber optic-like tendrils that swayed despite the absence of wind. The landing gear compressed with a soft hiss as it touched the surface, which had an unexpected give to it, almost like landing on a living membrane. Baseline camp established, Aidan continued, gathering his equipment. I'll commence preliminary field studies while the habitat module deploys. The airlock cycled open, and Aidan stepped onto an alien world. His environmental suit was minimal. The advanced probes had confirmed breathable atmosphere and no immediate biological threats, but protocol demanded caution. The air carried a sweet, almost electrical scent that reminded him of the moments before a thunderstorm. His first steps were tentative, then grew bolder as he moved away from the shuttle. The ground beneath him seemed to pulse with subtle bioluminescence where his boots made contact, fatting slowly after he moved on. Everything about Lunaris challenged Earth-based assumptions of biology. The substrate appears to be reactive, he noted, kneeling to take samples. Possibly a defensive mechanism or communication system. The entire ecosystem might function as a network rather than discrete organisms. Aidan was so engrossed in his observations that he failed to notice the shimmer in the air behind him. It wasn't until he heard a sound like crystal bells that he turned to see her. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, humanoid but clearly not human. Her skin had a pearlescent quality that shifted colors with her movements, predominantly lavender with ripples of silver. Most striking were her eyes, entirely obsidian except for pinpoints of light that seemed to mirror the stars themselves. Her body was covered in what might have been clothing or might have been an extension of herself, flowing materials that moved as if alive. "You trespass," she said, her voice somehow bypassing his ears and resonating directly in his mind. "This ground is sacred." Aidan stood slowly, hands visible. "I'm Dr. Aidan Foster, xenobiologist from Earth. I mean no harm, I'm here to study to learn." "I am Valora, guardian of the Western Reaches." She circled him, moving with uncanny grace. "Your kind has been observed, your probes, your machines, always taking, measuring, categorizing." "That's not, I only want to understand," Aidan protested, trying to maintain his scientific composure despite his racing heart. "Knowledge shared benefits all." Valora's expression remained unreadable, but the air around her crackled with energy. "And what will your people do with this knowledge, Aidan Foster, when they learn of our world's gifts?" Before he could answer, Aidan's equipment chimed. The soil analysis had completed, revealing compounds unknown to Earth science, elements with properties that would revolutionize energy production, manufacturing, medicine. Valora's eyes flashed as she saw the results displayed. "As I suspected." With a gesture, the tablet went dark. "You cannot be permitted to share this." "Wait," Aidan began, but Valora moved with impossible speed. The last thing he remembered was a touch to his forehead and the sensation of falling into a midnight sky filled with strange new stars. When consciousness returned, he was no longer beside his shuttle. The walls around him pulsed with the same bioluminescence as the ground, and beyond a transparent barrier, Valora watched him with those star-filled eyes. He was her captive now, on a world whose secrets he'd only just begun to understand. 3 days had passed since Aidan's capture, though time felt fluid in Valora's dwelling. The structure, part organic, part crystalline technology, seemed alive, responding to its mistress's thoughts, and occasionally Aidan noticed with curiosity to his own emotions. "Your prison is comfortable, is it not?" Valora entered the chamber, her form gliding rather than walking. Today her skin shimmered with blue undertones that matched the bioluminescent walls. "It's not what I'd call a standard research accommodation," Aidan replied, looking up from the small collection of specimens Valora had permitted him to gather. "But yes, it's comfortable." Valora moved to the transparent barrier separating his living space from the rest of the dwelling. With a gesture, it dissolved like morning mist. "You may explore this section today. Your vital signs indicate declining health from confinement." Aidan stood cautiously. "You're monitoring my physiology." "Of course, you are an unknown variable potentially dangerous to Lunaris." Her star-filled eyes observed him clinically. though your cellular structure is fascinating. Stepping through where the barrier had been, Aiden felt the air change, richer, filled with botanical compounds that made his mind sharper. This is remarkable. The air itself is psychoactive, isn't it? A slight curve touched Valora's lips. You notice much for a primitive species. We're not as primitive as you might think, Aiden countered, then paused at a viewport overlooking a vast valley. Below, the fiber-optic vegetation created patterns that look suspiciously like neural networks, though clearly we have much to learn. Valora moved beside him, close enough that he could feel a subtle electromagnetic field emanating from her skin. Why did you really come to Lunaris, Aiden Foster, alone in a small vessel, with equipment designed for deep analysis rather than cursory study? The truth was complicated. My official mission is biodiversity documentation. Earth's Xenoscience Institute funds independent researchers to catalog new worlds. He hesitated. Unofficially, I have questions about my employers. Questions. Valora's interest was piqued. Aiden turned to face her. Resource extraction follows scientific discovery with alarming regularity. I've seen it happen on 3 different worlds. I came to document Lunaris before corporate interests could establish claims. Yet your equipment analyzed soil composition immediately. To understand an ecosystem, you must understand its foundation. He ran a hand through his dark hair, disheveled from days of captivity. But those readings, they revealed something unprecedented. Elements that could revolutionize technology medicine. Elements that would make Lunaris a target, Valora finished. Her posture shifted, losing some of its rigidity. Come, if you truly wish to understand, there is something you should see. She led him deeper into the dwelling, through chambers where walls pulsed with light that responded to their presence. They entered a circular room dominated by a pool of silvery liquid that moved with apparent consciousness. This is a nexus point, Valora explained, one of many where Lunaris communicates with its guardians. Aiden knelt beside the pool, scientific curiosity overriding caution. Communicates, you mean the planet itself is not sentient as you understand it, but aware, connected. Valora knelt opposite him, touched the surface. Hesitantly, Aiden extended his hand. As his fingers met the liquid, it surged up to envelop his hand without feeling wet. Images flooded his mind, ecosystems in perfect balance, creatures adapting in real time to environmental changes, and beneath it all, a network connecting everything on Lunaris. Incredible, he whispered. It's a planetary neural network. The entire ecosystem functions as one organism. When he withdrew his hand, Aiden found Valora studying him with new interest. Most outsiders would see only resources to exploit. You see the truth. This is why you captured me, understanding dawned. You're protecting not just territory but a living entity. Valora nodded, and now you understand why your people cannot know. That evening, as artificial night fell in his chamber, Aiden reviewed the data covertly downloaded from his shuttle before his capture. Hidden among routine communications was a directive from his institute's corporate partner. Confirm viability of element 310 for quantum processing. Extraction planning phase 1 initiated. Aiden's stomach tightened. They already knew. And worse, they were coming. His status had shifted from explorer to something far more complicated, a human with divided loyalties, captive to an alien guardian he was beginning to respect, and perhaps the only person who could prevent a catastrophe for both sides. Your species has remarkable adaptive capabilities, Valora observed, watching Aiden adjust the makeshift laboratory equipment he'd constructed from his limited supplies and components she'd provided. 2 weeks had passed, and their relationship had evolved from captor-prisoner to something resembling collaboration. Necessity breeds innovation, Aiden replied, calibrating a sensor. Though I'll admit, merging your crystalline technology with my equipment has produced better results than I could have achieved alone. Sunlight streamed through the dwelling's translucent ceiling, creating rainbow patterns across Valora's pearlescent skin. She moved closer, examining his work with curious eyes. What are you hoping to discover? If I can understand how Lunaris maintains its neural network across different biological systems, I might be able to prove its sentience to my people. He paused, looking up at her. Evidence of planetary consciousness would trigger protection protocols, at least officially. You believe your kind would respect such designations? Skepticism colored her voice. Some would, enough perhaps. Aiden's fingers brushed against hers as they both reached for the same instrument. The contact sent an unexpected current through him, not unpleasant but intensely intimate, as if their nervous systems had momentarily connected. Valora didn't pull away. Your thoughts became visible to me just now, clear like the Nexus pool. Aiden felt heat rise to his face. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. No apology needed. It is rare to connect with another consciousness so directly. Her star-filled eyes held his gaze longer than usual. Your concern for Lunaris is genuine. The moment was interrupted by an alert from Aiden's communication device, the one Valora had allowed him to keep for monitoring his shuttle systems remotely. That's strange, he muttered, accessing the notification. My emergency beacon has been deactivated. He scrolled through data, his expression darkening. Someone's aboard my shuttle. They've overridden the security protocols. Valora's form tensed, her skin shifting to cooler tones. Your people have arrived earlier than predicted. No, this isn't right. Aiden shook his head, analyzing the data stream. The primary expedition isn't due for another 3 months. It's a corporate security team. He looked up, alarm evident. They're not here for scientific research. Moving to the dwelling's central chamber, Valora waved her hand across a crystalline surface. It transformed into a viewing portal showing the clearing where Aiden's shuttle had landed. 5 figures in sleek black environmental suits were establishing a perimeter, their equipment distinctly military in design. Advanced scanning technology, Aiden noted grimly. Element detection systems, they're prospectors. How did they find this place? Valora's voice carried an edge he hadn't heard before. Aiden swallowed hard. My preliminary soil analysis, before you captured me, it would have auto-transmitted basic findings to the Institute. Guilt washed over him. I'm sorry, Valora, I never intended. Intentions matter little against consequences, she replied, but her tone softened as she saw his genuine regret. Yet you now stand with Lunaris rather than your kind. Why? The question hung between them, weighted with implications beyond scientific ethics. Aiden found himself struggling to articulate feelings that had developed gradually during his captivity. Because Lunaris isn't just a research subject anymore, he finally said. And you're not just its guardian. I've connected with this world with you in ways I never expected. Something subtle changed in Valora's posture. She reached out, her fingertips touching his temple in the same gesture she'd used to render him unconscious during their first meeting. This time, however, instead of darkness, Aiden experienced a rush of sensations, images of Lunaris's history, glimpses of Valora's long vigilance, and beneath it all, her growing fascination with him. When the connection broke, they both stood breathless. We must act quickly, she said, her voice softer. The intruders will damage the nexus points if they discover them. Then we work together, Aiden replied, determination replacing uncertainty. I know their protocols, their technology, and you know Lunaris. They spent the next hours formulating a plan, their previous roles of captor and captive dissolved into partnership. Aiden modified his equipment to create a false signal that would lead the prospectors away from critical nexus points, while Valora communicated with the planet itself, asking it to conceal its most valuable resources. As night fell and they prepared to implement their defense, Valora paused beside him at the dwelling's entrance. If we succeed, she said, what then becomes of you, Aiden Foster, neither fully of your world nor mine? He looked out at the bioluminescent landscape, then back to her star-filled eyes. I'm beginning to think my place might be here, if that's possible. Valora's skin rippled with warm colors that hadn't appeared before. All things are possible on Lunaris, she replied, and the distance between them, physical and otherwise, seemed to diminish beneath twin moons and strange new stars. Dawn broke over Lunaris with an aurora of colors that danced across the horizon. Aiden and Valora had spent the night implementing their plan, redirecting the corporate team away from sensitive areas while Aiden transmitted coded warnings about environmental instability. Technical language designed to make extraction seem prohibitively dangerous without raising suspicion about his loyalties. They're retreating to the landing zone, Aiden reported, monitoring their movements through his hacked shuttle systems. Relief washed over him as the black-suited figures converged on their transport vessel. The false readings worked. Valora's expression remained cautious. They leave too easily. Your kind abandons profit without greater motivation. Before Aiden could respond, a new alert flashed across his screen. Another ship, he said, dread building as he analyzed the signature. Much larger research class. Your expedition has arrived early, Valora concluded. 3 weeks ahead of schedule. Aiden's fingers flew across the interface. Something's wrong. They've accelerated plans after receiving the prospector's initial findings. The sky darkened as a massive vessel broke through the atmosphere, descending toward a plateau several kilometers from their location. Unlike the streamlined corporate craft, this one bore the insignia of the Xenoscience Institute, Aiden's employer. I should go to them, he said, though the words felt hollow. Try to explain, to convince them of what we've discovered. Valora's skin shifted to deeper purples. You believe they will listen when resources of such value are at stake. Not all scientists are driven by profit. My former colleague, Dr. Dominic Wells, leads the expedition. He's dedicated to preservation too. The same colleague who partners with extraction companies. Valora gestured to the corporate ship now docking with the newly arrived vessel. Aiden fell silent, conflict evident in his expression. Over the past weeks, his allegiance had shifted, but these were still his people, his profession. I have to try. The journey to the expedition base took several hours, with Valora moving through the landscape in ways that seemed to fold distance. When they arrived, a prefabricated research station was already half-assembled, efficient deployment systems creating a human outpost on alien soil. Remember, Valora cautioned as they approached, I remain hidden until needed. Your people would see me as a threat. Aiden nodded, his heart pounding as he walked alone into the cleared area. He was quickly spotted by perimeter sensors, and within minutes found himself surrounded by armed security personnel. Stand down, called a familiar voice. That's Foster. Dr. Dominic Wells emerged from the main structure, his tall frame and precisely trimmed beard exactly as Aiden remembered. The security team parted, and Wells approached with a smile that didn't reach his calculating eyes. Aiden, we thought you might be dead. Wells clasped his shoulder with performative warmth. When your transmission stopped, we accelerated our timeline. There were complications, Aiden replied carefully. The planet's ecosystem is unlike anything we've documented. It requires special protocols, Dominic. There's evidence of sentience at a planetary scale. Wells guided him toward the station. Fascinating, you must share your findings immediately. We've brought state-of-the-art analysis equipment. Inside, the contrast with Valora's organic dwelling couldn't have been starker. Clinical white surfaces, harsh artificial lighting, and dozens of researchers already cataloging specimens with mechanical efficiency. Your preliminary soil analysis caused quite a stir, Wells continued, leading him to a private office. Element 310 with quantum stabilization properties, the board practically threw funding at us to expedite the mission. About that, Aiden began, choosing his words carefully. The element is integral to the planet's neural network. Extraction would cause catastrophic ecological collapse. Wells' expression hardened almost imperceptibly. That's quite a conclusion from preliminary studies. He pressed a button, sealing the office door, especially from someone who's been missing for weeks. I've been conducting field research, Aiden countered, living within the ecosystem, observing its interconnected nature. With assistance, I presume. Wells activated a screen showing surveillance footage, Aiden and Valora at the edge of the forest before approaching the base. Our drones detected your companion's unusual biometrics. Care to introduce us? Alarm raced through Aiden. She's a native guardian. The planet has evolved sentient protectors who took you captive, Wells interrupted. Yes, we decoded your shuttle's logs, yet here you are collaborating with your captor. His smile returned, colder now. Stockholm Syndrome or something more. You don't understand what's at stake, Aiden insisted. This isn't just another resource world. Wells leaned forward. Oh, I understand perfectly. Element 310 will revolutionize quantum computing. Lunaris has the largest known deposit in explored space. He paused. And I also understand that your alien friend is the key to efficient extraction. The door slid open, revealing security personnel with weapons trained on Valora, now restrained in some type of energy field that left her immobilized but conscious. Her eyes found Aiden's, filled not with accusation but with warning. You knew, Aiden realized, staring at Wells. The corporate team, the accelerated timeline, you knew about Lunaris' sentience all along. Hypothesized, Wells corrected, needed confirmation. Your emotional attachment to the subject provided conclusive evidence. He gestured to the security team. Take them both to containment. We'll begin neural mapping of the alien immediately. As they were led away, Aiden caught Valora's silent communication, a slight movement of her eyes toward the ceiling, where the station's environmental systems connected to Lunarian atmosphere. The planetary network was already responding to her capture, tendrils of awareness seeking ways to defend itself. The betrayal was complete, but the battle for Lunaris had only just begun. The containment cell hummed with energy fields designed to isolate its occupants from both each other and the outside world. Valora lay motionless on an examination platform, various sensors monitoring her alien physiology while Aiden was restrained against the opposite wall. Hours had passed since Wells' betrayal, and the research team was preparing for an invasive neural mapping procedure. I'm sorry, Aiden whispered, his voice barely audible over the equipment. I should have seen this coming. Valora's star-filled eyes opened slightly. Do not apologize for another's corruption. Her voice sounded weaker, but her gaze remained intense. The planet feels my distress. It will respond soon. As if on cue, the lights flickered. The environmental system that connected the station to Lunaris's atmosphere gave a subtle shudder. What's happening? A technician frowned at her console. Power fluctuation, another responded. The integration with local atmosphere is showing anomalous readings. Aiden caught Valora's meaningful glance. The neural network was responding just as she'd predicted. He needed to buy time. Wells, Aiden called out, knowing the surveillance system would relay his message. You're making a catastrophic mistake. Lunaris doesn't just have sentient guardians, the entire planet functions as one organism. What you're planning is effectively vivisection. The door slid open and Wells entered, flanked by security. Passionate to the end, aren't you? But your concern is misplaced. We've accounted for the neural network in our extraction plan. You can't possibly. Our collectors will leave the primary nodes intact, Wells continued dismissively. The ecosystem may suffer temporary disruption, but nothing apocalyptic. Progress demands sacrifice, Aiden. Valora's voice cut through the tension. Your arrogance blinds you to truth. Lunaris is not merely alive, it remembers, and it has encountered your kind before. Wells turned to her with clinical interest. Oh, do elaborate while my team finishes preparations. Long ago, others came with promises of study only to extract and destroy. Her skin began to pulse with subtle light patterns. Lunaris adapted, it learned to defend itself. The building vibration intensified. Around the room, equipment displays began showing cascading errors. Sir, a technician called urgently, we're detecting massive electrical disturbances throughout the station. The atmospheric integration system it's changing composition. Wells frowned, override and isolate. I can't, sir, it's like the system is rewiring itself. Aiden felt his restraints loosen almost imperceptibly. The station's systems were being manipulated by the planetary network, responding to Valora's silent commands. He needed one more distraction. Wells, listen to me, he pleaded, feigning greater panic than he felt. I've seen what Lunaris can do when threatened. You need to shut down all interfaces with the local environment immediately. As Wells and the security team turned their attention to the failing systems, Aiden felt his restraints release completely. In one fluid motion, he crossed to the control panel and deactivated the field holding Valora. Chaos erupted. The lights failed completely, emergency systems casting the lab in pulsing red illumination. Valora rose from the platform, her skin now radiating intense bioluminescence that seemed to flow like liquid starlight. This way, she commanded, taking Aiden's hand. The contact sent that familiar current through him, but stronger now, a deliberate connection to share her awareness of the station's layout. They moved through darkened corridors as the building itself seemed to turn against its human occupants. Atmospheric controls released targeted plant spores that induced disorientation but not permanent harm. Communication systems broadcast frequencies that disrupted concentration. The neural mapping equipment, Aiden gasped as they ran. If Wells adapts it to target the primary nexus points. He cannot locate them without me, Valora assured him. But we must reach the central environmental control hub. From there, we can sever their integration with Lunaris completely. They fought their way to the station's core, where Wells had already gathered with a team of engineers attempting to regain control of the systems. Foster, Wells snarled upon seeing them, whatever you've done, undo it now. It's not me, Aiden replied calmly. It's Lunaris protecting itself. Shut down the operation, withdraw your people, and the planet will allow you to leave unharmed. After coming all this way with billions invested, Wells laughed bitterly, corporate would sooner sterilize the surface. Then you leave us no choice. Aiden nodded to Valora, who placed her hands on the central console. The connection was immediate and overwhelming. Through her, Lunaris accessed the station's complete systems, initiating a controlled shutdown sequence that would render all extraction equipment permanently inoperable while maintaining life support. Wells lunged forward, but found himself immobilized by tendrils of energy emanating from the console. The planet's neural network made visible, responding directly to the threat. What you feel now, Valora told him, her voice resonating with multiple harmonics, is Lunaris touching your mind. Remember this when you return to your world. Remember what awaits those who would wound a living planet. The confrontation ended not with violence but with understanding, forced upon Wells and his team by direct neural connection to Lunaris. When it was over, they stood dazed but unharmed, their ambitions replaced with a visceral comprehension of what they had nearly destroyed. 3 days later, Aiden watched from Valor's dwelling as the expedition vessel lifted off, returning to Earth with data but no samples of element 310. The corporate partnership had been dissolved, the Xenoscience Institute chastened by what their lead team had experienced. They will return eventually, Valora said, joining him at the viewport. Different humans with different justifications. Perhaps, Aiden acknowledged, but they'll find Lunaris better protected, the warning will spread. And what of you? Her question hung between them, weighted with possibilities. Your kind departs without their scientist. Aiden turned to her, taking in her otherworldly beauty, not just her form, but the consciousness it housed, so different from his own yet increasingly familiar. My research isn't complete, he said with a small smile. I've only begun to understand this world. He hesitated, then added more softly, and its guardian. Valora's skin rippled with warm colors that he'd come to recognize as emotion. Then you choose to remain, as what, prisoner, colleague, something else? As whatever we're becoming, Aiden answered honestly. He reached for her hand, initiating the connection that now felt as natural as breathing. I think we've moved beyond simple definitions. The neural link between them opened, thoughts and feelings flowing in both directions, his human perspective merging with her ancient understanding. Where their consciousness met, something new emerged, a bridge between worlds. Outside, Lunaris responded to their connection. The landscape bloomed with unprecedented patterns of light, acknowledging its two defenders, one born of its essence, one who had chosen to become part of it. Under strange new stars, they began to write the next chapter of both their worlds.